Uh, I do want to talk about my individual approach to some of the more difficult aspects of being a school counselor. And I think one of those, especially for me, is managing the amount of information that I take in that I feel that I need to be accountable for professionally. And so, what that looks like is I want to be able to account for how I'm spending my time when I'm on campus, as well as what I'm working on with students in sessions that I have with them, especially individual or group sessions with students in a counseling capacity rather than just in a working around the school, checking in kind of capacity. And so, to that end, my system is basically a mixture of online tool and old school analog notebook. And so what I do is everywhere I go, I carry my notebook with me. I know I said it might be a little more serious, but it's got unicorn duct tape and this manatee mermaid sticker. Anyway, um, even though it looks silly, it contains a lot of very serious information. I like that it's brightly colored and has these things because it's very important for me to keep up with it. Um, I want to make sure that this is locked in my office unless it's with me at all times because it is how I keep track of what I'm working on with students. So what I do is I write at the top, as soon as I start meeting with a student, I write the time rounded to the nearest 5 minutes. I write the student's name, and then I take notes based on what's appropriate to notate in a session as I'm working with the student. I also, whenever I'm doing basically any task throughout the school day, I write plus or minus 5 minutes whenever that task starts. So at 1 o'clock today, working on the North Carolina School Counselor application. And then basically that's a record too for me that I can use to see how I'm spending my time as a school counselor. All of the information about, okay, here's what we're working on, that kind of thing that I have with students stays in this, in the notes that are hard copies in my pretty much illegible handwriting, which helps with confidentiality, but also helps me go back and look, okay, on this day, at this time, we're working on this and we're making progress or not, so I want to try a different approach. At the end of each day, I take the notes, staple them together, and then have a record of that exact day stapled together with the date at the top of each page in the top left corner. They're kept in order, initially in reverse order in a pile on my desk. Then I go back through them and enter them into SCUDA. That's the School Counselor Use of Time Advocate. When I put them in the School Counselor Use of Time Advocate, what I do then is I enter the information of basically what I was doing, like non-school counselor task, 504 case management, or fair share responsibilities, class coverage. And a lot of times I'll overlap that with fair share responsibilities, class coverage, also direct work with students if I'm covering a class and I'm able to also have a lesson that's relevant to school counseling as I'm doing that. So in addition to that, I will put a record of which student I met with and for how long, but in the electronic copy, I do not put any information about what we discuss. So that I do keep just in the hard copy notes, which again stay either on my notebook in my person for that day or locked in my office at all times. And then that also allows me to look back at SCUDA, and if I need to see, okay, how many minutes this year have I met with this student, I can pull that. How many different sessions have I had, I can pull that. And a lot of times I struggle to remember every detail of what we've talked about with every student. So it's also helpful for me to say, okay, something's going on with this student. I want to meet with them, but I also want to go back and make sure I'm not forgetting something important. So I'll look, okay, put in SCUDA this student's name. These are the dates. I can go to my pile of notes, pull each day, look at what we worked on that day. And then it usually takes about 5 minutes, and I'm much better prepared to enter into a session with that student where I can remember, okay, this is what they're struggling with. I can check in about, hey, were you able to get connected with your uncle about that job or whatever it is. And so that's a system that I use to help me stay accountable.